welcome. We're really excited that you're taking time out of your busy lives to learn a little bit more about the housing, loans, incentives, and grants that the city of Oshkosh offers. We have a panel of staff at the city and also Pam Reuter from Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods that are going to share their expertise and be available for Q&As. So I'm going to introduce everybody that is going to be speaking. We're lucky to have Mark Roloff, city manager. You want to give him a wave? And then Alan Davis, Director of Community Development. Mark Lyons is our Planning Services Manager. Stephen Wiley is the Associate Planner. Darlene Brandt, Grants Coordinator. Alexa Najunas is the Associate Planner. Brandon Nielsen, I massacred the easiest name, is our Assistant Planner. And my name is Ann Schaefer. I'm Marketing and Fund Development Coordinator. And Pam Reuter is the Executive Director of Neighborhoods. So Mark, why don't you go through Mark Lyons one more time on how to people can raise their hands at the end of the session, and we will get to each of you and answer your questions.
All right. Thank you. So yeah, a couple housekeeping items and then we'll get going here. First, as Ann had mentioned, we please ask that everyone keep themselves muted during the presentation so there is no background noise and everyone can clearly hear what's going on. At the end of the meeting, we are going to have a portion for Q&A. During the question and answer session, there's two ways to raise your hand. The first is if you look at the bottom right of your screen, you should see a button that says participants. If you click that, it should open up the participant list. You can find your name. If you hover over your name, you should see a little raise hand icon come up that you can click on. There's also in the middle of your screen, there should be a thing that says reactions. If you click on that, there should be a raise hand in there as well. Either one works. Just gives Ann and I a chance to see who wants to speak and ask a question. We'll then call on you. We ask that you unmute your mic, give us your question or your comments, and then mute yourself again when you're done, and we'll be happy to answer them. With that, we are going to go ahead and get started. So today we have Mark Roloff, the city manager for the city of Oshkosh, who's going to start with some comments for us. Take it away, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate all of you, giving us a little bit of your time to learn more about some of our programs. A couple of things I want to talk about, relative to housing. We are very blessed. So many of the listings and national publications about Oshkosh or the Fox Valley area being a great place to live. One of the things that is often used in those statistics is that we have very affordable housing in the city of Oshkosh. And compared to other areas of the country, and I've lived in some of those other areas of the country, we're very fortunate to have affordable housing. At the same time, housing, if you look at it as a very precious resource, we have the ability to recycle and reuse some of our housing assets to benefit our community, but also to just prevent having to overbuild and overexpand unnecessarily. We have some wonderful neighborhoods that I think represent great values. But of course, in order to maintain the values of so many of our neighborhoods, it's reinvesting in those neighborhoods. And that's really what this is about today. This is about learning how to reinvest in neighborhoods. And we at the city recognize that there are ways we can do that to help make it easier for you to see the value that exists in our neighborhoods. You're going to learn today about, loans and incentive programs that will encourage home improvements, home ownership, and really reinvestment in our community. They've been created. All of these programs have been created to provide flexible financing to homeowners and investors located or looking to locate in the city. And you're going to learn a lot about those today. This year, we're adding even additional funding incentives to improve the housing stock within the city, which is truly a win-win for everybody in the community. One of our new incentives that you'll learn about will give homeowners or home buyers the opportunity to purchase lots through the city upon which they can build a new house. These options can provide significant savings to potential home buyers compared to building somewhere else, either inside or outside the city. Our goal, as always, is to improve housing conditions in neighborhoods throughout the city. So I hope you use today's opportunity to learn about those things. And in this virtual world, word of mouth is very difficult because we aren't going to parties and things like that where we can necessarily share this information. But certainly we want to get the word out to everybody about these programs. So I encourage you to not just take this wonderful information and just hold it inside. And to the degree you do happen to talk to different people or you represent organizations, please share this information. And additionally, if there's something in here that you think just isn't right, just doesn't click, let us know. We are constantly looking at ways to improve our offerings and our incentives. We can't do everything, but because we're governed sometimes by different rules and regulations. But to the degree we have some flexibility in how these programs are done, we can learn from you about how we can better deliver these programs. So please don't hesitate to contact Mark Lyons or any of our other staff who are here today to learn more about these programs. Alexa, Brandon, Mr. Davis, our community development director, and for at least another couple of weeks, Darlene Brandt, who's served in this area so well over the years. So we've got a great staff who are here to help you. And then we've got a great support group with Go H&I, Healthy Neighborhoods, and all the people that work with Pam to deliver those. So thank you for tuning in today, and please give us all the feedback you can so we can better deliver services and improve neighborhoods throughout the city of Oshkosh. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Alan Davis, who has the next part of this presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. This is Alan Davis, Community Development Director for the City of Oshkosh. And part of my role here is at the city is to help attract businesses, residents, and investment to Oshkosh and to make Oshkosh an even better place to live, learn, work, and play. And we're fortunate that the City Council has provided direction to city staff to improve neighborhoods, and they've provided funding and staff to help achieve that goal. I'm just going to touch on a few things that are kind of broader goals that the city has. Number one, we can't do this alone. We need you, all the participants today. We're also working with other city departments. We need partners like you on and implementing all of our neighborhood improvements. Other examples I want to highlight, you'll hear from Pam Reuter at Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods, a great partner, but also the Community Foundation, the Housing Authority, Advocap. Advocap's been providing rental assistance to people during this pandemic. Habitat, many developers from the city, from the state, from the region have invested millions of dollars in the city. And the state and federal government, believe it or not, have sent us millions of dollars to help with redevelopment projects and housing. And don't want to forget any of the neighborhood groups that are already out there. Neighborhood associations are just loose groups of people who are trying to improve their neighborhoods. We work with a lot of different people. And some of these projects range from people who unfortunately are homeless or very unstable housing right now. We also work with the redevelopment districts, landlords and tenants, home buyers and home buyers to be, we hope, as well as developers, as I've mentioned before, and attracting them to the city of Oshkosh. One thing I also wanted to bring up that's not on the agenda is that it's actually trying to figure out what we need to do about housing in the city to cover all the city and all the different types of housing needs that we have in the city. and a survey will be released very soon. And I'd encourage all the participants here to help us figure out what we need to do about housing in the future and for the next generation here in Oshkosh. So, well, I'm sure since we have your emails, we'll be sending you an invitation to fill out that survey here in the next month or so. With that, I'm going to close and turn it over to Alexa Najunas, who will talk about our first program, the Great Neighborhoods Program.
Great, thank you, Alan. Hi, everyone. I'm Alexa. I work for the city. I'm the associate planner, and I'm going to give a quick overview of our Great Neighborhoods program. The Great Neighborhoods program is designed to enhance the image, market, and physical conditions of Oshkosh neighborhoods. The program provides residents the opportunity to originate projects that enhance quality of life through strategic improvements to the public realm. So working in collaboration with city staff, residents initiate, plan, and then implement the projects and activities in pursuit of healthy neighborhoods of choice in Oshkosh. The Great Neighborhoods program is funded through the city's capital improvement program, and it's intended to strengthen neighborhoods. So some eligible projects, eligible projects usually support any kind of capital improvements in the public realm. So it has to be a public space, which could include city-owned property or buildings, parks, public streets, and applicants are strongly encouraged to work with city staff on project development. So if neighborhoods or any kind of groups have ideas, they can work with staff through those ideas. And for this year, the application deadline is at the end of May, so next month. So this slide you're showing is so some examples of our past successes. This is a picture of some crosswalks in the Ferry Crossing Neighborhood Association, and they came to us and they just mentioned that the curb crossings are hard to access, and so we worked with them through some solutions, and it turned out that we added ADA accessible crosswalks in about 5 intersections in that neighborhood. And then another example, if you go to the next slide, please. We have William Waters Plaza, and that is right across the street from the Oshkosh Public Library. And that was a space that you can see, that's the before picture. It was kind of shady. Some of the stuff wasn't fully functioning anymore. And then you see the after picture where we added landscaping, new pathways, lighting, benches. We have chess tables, chess game boards there on the top of the tables. And so those are just 2 really good examples of successful projects. So if you want more info, you can contact me. So yeah, I'm going to hand it off to Miss Reuter now, and she's going to present her materials.
All right, thank you, Alexa, and thank you all for joining today's workshop. I think you have to hit one more button to get the rest of my slide up there, Mark. Yeah, there it is. All right. You have heard, I am Pam Reuter with Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods. Mr. Roloff mentioned the Go H&I. Our long name is Greater Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods Incorporated. Nobody wanted to say all of those words, and nobody knew what Go H&I actually stood for. So here we are. We are Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods. You can still find us online at gohni.org. But who are we and what are we? We are a nonprofit 501c3, but we are here to collaborate with a variety of groups to build inclusive, safe, and healthy neighborhoods here in Oshkosh. Through a generous donation from the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation and in partnership with the City of Oshkosh, we are able to offer the Good Neighbor Grants. We'll get to that in a minute. Next slide. First, Oshkosh is very unique in that our neighborhood associations are developed from the residents on up. Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods seek to engage neighborhood residents, empower them to be leaders in managing neighborhood issues, and to participate fully in the future of their neighborhoods. From the map, you can see we currently have 19 recognized neighborhood associations, but I think there's room for maybe even another 19. If you are interested in forming a neighborhood association, please contact us. We can help, and there are many benefits. One of them being the Good Neighbor Grant. Next slide, please. The Good Neighbor Grant And Mark, you can again hit one more. We have applications available on our website, again at gohni.org, for residents of recognized neighborhood associations. The application period is April 15th through June 15th. The intent is to help homeowners with curb appeal projects in our neighborhood associations. We offered 20 Good Neighbor grants in 2020. Applicants submit their application with a before picture. Once approved, they complete the project and send the receipts and the after picture. We will reimburse up to $750 after the first $250 is paid by the applicant. Who is eligible? Again, homeowners in neighborhood associations. We see these grants as a catalyst for neighborhood development. And last year, the 20 Good Neighbor grants fueled over $100,000 in home improvements. The projects included, as you can see, painting, landscaping was another one. One had a new driveway poured, and also pictured up above, one was able to install a new, safer set of stairs. It is a great program, and we are pleased with the partnership that it is funded for 2021 and 2022. The program is described in detail again on our website at gohni.org. Next slide, please. Another partnership Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods is involved with is Rock the Block Oshkosh. Habitat for Humanity of Oshkosh, Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods, and the City of Oshkosh have partnered to bring this neighborhood revitalization to Oshkosh. This June, we will be working with the River East Neighborhood Association. While many of the projects are free to the homeowners, the city has developed some funding options to help with these exterior home repairs if it is beyond the scope of Rock the Block Oshkosh. I will turn it over to Stephen Wiley, Associate Planner with the City of Oshkosh, to tell you more.
Thank you, Pam. So as Pam mentioned, I am Stephen Wiley. I am one of a few associate planners at the city. One of my job duties is actually helping administer our housing grant and loan programs. So I'll kind of talk about a few of them here. We do have a number of housing grants and loans to help incentivize investment in properties in the city here. You can see on the slide here, we mentioned our Curb Appeal Micro Grant. That is one of our newer grant programs, and it's kind of a nice perk for people in neighborhoods where organized revitalization is happening. So Pam mentioned Rock the Block, that collaboration that goes on between the city, Habitat for Humanity, and Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods. And that the intent of that is really to enhance social connection, to encourage folks to invest collaboratively in their neighborhood and in I guess someone can't hear what's being said, unfortunately, sorry. Hopefully most people can hear me. The intent of Rock the Block is to really encourage investing in the properties and curb appeal and such. And our micro grant was developed in tandem with that. So it's eligible properties would be in neighborhoods where revitalization is occurring. So Rock the Block comes to mind as a prime example. The River East neighborhood where Rock the Block is going to occur this year would be a prime candidate for properties that would be eligible for this program. This grant is a matching grant. So with all of our programs, pre-approval of the work is required. And you would fill out the application, submit before pictures of the property, get approved. You would do the work, after getting all the required permits. And then upon completion, you would submit your follow-up photos, and then the city would reimburse up to $500. So, if you invest $1,000, the city would reimburse $500 of that. If you were to invest $500, we would reimburse $250. So that's kind of how that program works. Next slide, Mark, please. Along with the micro grant program, there are some city loan programs. The first of these that I'll get into, these are for larger scale projects. The loans are open to any property built before 1970 in the city of Oshkosh. So for example, our owner occupied rehab program, you can see up on the slide here, and or exterior work. It would be properties, older housing stock, and it offers probably the most flexibility of some of our loan programs. This would be a 15-year loan, 0% interest, up to $30,000, and it would be paid back quarterly after the work is done. Again, pre-approval is required. And I want to mention for the loan programs and for our down payment assistance that Brandon will talk about later on, there is a requirement that you cannot spend more than 30% of your gross monthly income on housing related expenses. So housing expenses would be your mortgage, your utilities, your property taxes and insurance, and then the city loan. We would look at all of that. For example, if you made $50,000 a year before taxes, we would take that, divide by 12, and then whatever that is would be your gross monthly income. And then from that, we would take that times 0.30 to come up with the amount that you could spend on housing expenses. And as long as you did not exceed that 30%, you could conceivably qualify for these programs. We do look at other things like credit and other factors, but I just want to mention that 30% up front. So this program, again, a nice one for interior or exterior or a combination, larger scale projects. Next slide, please. Similar to the owner occupied program is the rental rehab program. Very parallel to the owner occupied, but in this case, it's more for rental properties. Here, same type of work, interior and or exterior, the same repayment terms, so 15-year loan at 0% interest, up to $30,000 and paid back quarterly. Again, work has to be pre-approved. In this case, the tenant or tenants cannot spend more than 30% of their gross monthly income on rent and utilities. So their housing expenses would factor in because we have to make sure that the housing is affordable to meet our standards. Next slide, please. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brandon Nielsen. He is our assistant planner for the city.
Thank you, Stephen, and thanks everybody for being here today. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the Sold on Oshkosh program. In my opinion, it's the most exciting program that's offered. As Stephen kind of mentioned before, down payment assistance, $5,000 given if you are buying a home in Oshkosh that is within one of the recognized neighborhood associations. That is the big caveat for this program. It has to be a home that is within the boundaries of one of those 19 neighborhood associations. The way it works, there's an approval process with a couple of factors that have to be met, such as home buyer counseling has to be accomplished. From a home buyer counseling agency, we can provide the information for that. And basically, if you live in the home for 5 years, that $5,000 is forgiven. Otherwise, if you were to sell a home after 3 years, you'd have to pay back, the remainder of $2,000 or whatever it would be. But basically, $1,000 is forgiven every year for the first 5 years. This again is one of those programs that is requires that 30% monthly income that Stephen mentioned earlier, and the home must be built before 1970. Next slide. And so this is the curb appeal program. Basically, this one is a $10,000 maximum loan, 0% interest for 10 years. Again, paid back quarterly. And that's basically just for exterior improvements, siding, painting, windows, doors, new front steps, porches, The home must be built before 1970. It can be applied to single or multifamily, like condominiums and duplexes. And I think that's pretty much it. This one also requires that cannot spend more than the 30% of gross monthly income. Next slide. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Darlene Brandt.
Hi, thank you everyone for coming today. I'm going to talk about the city's Community Development Block Grant Home Improvement Rehab Program. The city has funds available every year under the Cdbg program to assist low to moderate income homeowners with repairs to single-family homes or owner-occupied duplexes. We also have funding available that assists with down payment assistance, also to low to moderate income home buyers. The city does have a, the city's housing improvement program, forgive me, is a citywide income eligible program. It's not restricted to neighborhoods. However, we do look at encouraging neighborhood associations to apply for this program through the city. It is a 0% interest deferred loan that is not repaid until the home is sold or the owner no longer lives at the property. Next slide, please. Eligible repairs that could be included are new siding, new roofs, painting, windows, exterior doors. Next slide, please. Plumbing, electrical, furnace, and air conditioning as well. New construction or remodeling is not permitted under this program, but making repairs to everything that's existing could be an eligible expense. The city goes out to inspect your home after you have submitted an application. The city inspects the home to determine the type of work that needs to be done. The city does put a mortgage on the property, and that's why we like to look at making all the improvements that would be necessary to bring the house up to affordability and allow the homeowner to continue to live in their home for as long as possible. I know the city or citizens may have a concern with the city coming inside their properties. With COVID, we have looked at just doing a lot of exterior repairs and only doing interior repairs as the homeowner will allow the contractors in the city inside their home. But these are still eligible activities. The program has been in effect since 1974, and all of the funds that are repaid from all of those older loans that we have made are used again on new projects. So it's a continuing program that funds itself and allows the city to help low to moderate income homeowners make improvements to their home. Next slide, please. As part of the Community Development Block Grant funding, we also provide a down payment assistance. This is up to $10,000 for eligible down payment costs, offsetting mortgage costs. There's different things that we can look at to assist a homeowner. This is again citywide, but it is income limitations for the prospective home buyer. These applications are accepted, I'm sorry, the homeowner rehab program applications are accepted January to March 15th of every year. And I know we are just past that deadline, and we usually have more applications than we have funding available to undertake projects. But if you have a project that needs to be addressed, whether it be your furnace stopped working, and with summer coming on, your air conditioning's not working, you have a water leak from the street to the house. These are all things that potentially the city could help you with. Again, based on income. It has to be for low to moderate income families. Housing repairs costs have risen, as we know, considerably, possibly due to the COVID. But there are a lot of things that the city can help you with based on all the different programs that everyone has mentioned here today. So if you have questions or you're not sure if you would be eligible for any of the programs, please feel free to give us a call and we can talk through your situation and determine what's the best approach for you. Now I will turn it over to Planning Services Division Manager, Mark Lyons.
Thank you, Darlene. So as you can see, the city has quite a bit of existing programs, both block grant funded and through our neighborhood initiatives. Now we're going to touch on two brand new programs that we're rolling out for the city. One thing we're always trying to do is come up with new ways to help with neighborhood investment, new ways to help with ownership, home ownership. So the first one of the two new programs that we're rolling out is called New Homes in Your Neighborhood. These are $15,000 grant to city-owned properties. So the city has a number of lots that are available that have been acquired over the years, demoed, and now we're sitting vacant. And the city is
kind of back in.
Doesn't go be looking truck out at four door.
Yeah.
one moment, please. I'm going to try to mute that. So the city has acquired lots over the years, and we're looking to help with reinvestment in those lots. If an individual is looking at building a new home on one of our lots, the city is providing up to $15,000 to help in the construction of a new home. We do require a developer's agreement and pre-approval as part of that process. These are intended to be new, owner-occupied single-family homes on existing lots in the neighborhood. And the grant is approved as part of the certificate of occupancy. So once the home is constructed, homeowner is ready to move in, then the grant funds are applied. Again, it is eligible to city-owned properties, which are available for a number of reasons and at a number of price points, anywhere from low to moderate income to lots that are market rate lots. But then we are able to help provide that grant on top of it to hopefully help with some of the infill development in the city. With that, I'm going to turn it over back to Mr. Wiley for one more program.
Thanks, Mark. So we also have the Historic Rehabilitation Program, which is a little bit different than some of our other programs. The terms and then the eligible properties are both different. This is for designated historic properties in the city of Oshkosh. So it would have to be on the property would have to be on the National Register or the State Register or local landmarked under our local ordinance to be eligible for this program. And we'll show a map on the next slide. The terms of this program, kind of like the block grant program, it's a deferred payment loan in that sense. So that's similar. It's not paid back unless the owner sells or ceases to live at the property. For work to qualify, work has to meet the Secretary of the Interior's standards for preservation. So this would have to, it would have to be historically sensitive. There are certain practices that they, for example, would frown upon, taking old clapboard siding off, for example, and putting on new vinyl would not be eligible. As it might be for some of our other programs. The intent of this is really to make sure that historic properties are preserved. It is a loan up to $25,000, and there is a funding match required. So if the work is up to $10,000 as far as what the city is putting in, then the property owner would have a one-to-one match. So like if you put in $7,500, for example, then the city loan would be $7,500. You would put in $7,500, the city would put in that much. If you were to put in, or if the city was being asked to put in $15,000, then you would have to put in $30,000. It'd be a 2-to-1 in that case. So a little bit different terms, just something to keep in mind. Mark, if you could go to the next slide, please. This is just a map showing our eligible areas for this. So you can see some of the districts in the city, the historic districts, in the different colors there. And then some of the individually listed properties are in green, along with our 2 landmarked properties, which are hard to see, but in red. Those would be eligible properties for a program like this, provided they're residential properties. So just to give you a sense of these. With that, I think that's all I have on this program. And I'll turn it over to Mark. Again, thank you everybody for coming, and we'll be happy to take questions.
Yeah. So a couple of closing comments for everyone. As you can see, we have a number of programs in the city, and there is some overlap in some different characteristics of all that programming. We did send out kind of a matrix to hopefully help people out a little bit prior to the meeting. But one thing we really want to stress here is if you have a situation, you're looking at home repairs, you're looking at purchasing a new home, you have clients looking at purchasing a new home, reach out to the city. We can talk through any situation you may have and try to figure out if we have a funding source to help you achieve your goal or your client's goal, whether that be block grant funding, whether it be healthy neighborhoods funding. The idea of today's program is to really help you understand that there are programs out there to help with home ownership, home repairs, and rental properties. And the city wants to help with this. So if you have questions, you have concerns, you have a situation, we just say, reach out to us. We'll help you get a program if you're eligible, and we'll help you figure out the best way to achieve it. And we're also always looking at new programs. So if you have ideas, thoughts of something maybe the city can do to help out with home programs, please let us know. Some of our funding sources have some limitations on ways we can spend it. Some of them have less limitations that we're able to develop and change programs to meet the community's needs. There are 2 things out there on the city website that can also help you. If you're on the city website, we do have, and I'm actually going to stop screen share the PowerPoint briefly and show you guys 2 web pages. Assuming I can get the technology to work appropriately. Okay, hopefully everyone can see this. Can everyone see my internet browser? Looks like yes, I'm seeing anything. So just 2 quick web pages I wanted to show people. On the city's webpage, we do have a housing loans and incentive program kind of landing page. Easiest way to find this page is really to just Google Oshkosh housing programs, and this website will pull up. But it has a lot of the applications, brochures, the overview information, which we went over in today's presentation. That matrix will also be added to this webpage to kind of help give people a landing spot. Now, these are really specific to the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative programs. Not all block grant programs are on here, but we're going to be getting that information out on here as well, so people have a place to find it. The second thing I want to show people is if you do look for neighborhood associations, the city does have a web map where you can put in an address, and it will zoom in and tell you if you are in a neighborhood association. So I pulled up City Hall here very quickly. As you can see, we are not located in a neighborhood association here at City Hall. But again, if you just Google City of Oshkosh neighborhoods, you can find this site. And it's just a very simple map. You can type in an address, and it's going to tell you if you're in a neighborhood association. Again, if you have other questions or you're not able to find the property you're looking for, give us a call. We're here to help administer these programs and get people any and all information they have. So with that, I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint. That was not the right thing. There we go. So with that, we are going to open it up for questions. If anyone has questions, this is where we talked about kind of using that raise hand feature earlier. So just go ahead and raise your hand if you have any questions, and we'll try to get them. It looks like the first one I see right off the bat is Adam. Adam, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, thanks for this program today. It's really great. I just have a question regarding the owner-occupied rehab loan. I'm wondering if, for instance, I have some very old windows that I would like to restore in my house, and I'm wondering if it's only allowed for one project at a time, or if I wanted to paint the exterior as well, would I be able to tack that on to that loan?
Adam, yeah, I can answer that. So you can do, depending on the cost of the work, you know, if say going up to that 30,000, if we can fit more than one project in, you could potentially get more than one project done. So it's not just limited to windows. You could do like painting, windows, you know, you could lump some of that in.
Thanks, Steven.
Mark, there's a couple in the chat.
Yep,
So,
I was gonna run through those quick.
yeah, great.
So one question we did receive in chat was from looks like Melanie, who asked, what if your neighborhood is not in a neighborhood association? So couple of things that can help answer that. One, we always encourage you to help form a neighborhood association, and our folks at GoH&I would love to help you with that. But if that's not really feasible in your area, we do have some programs through block grant that are eligible for non-neighborhoods. Our Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative stuff is really targeted at neighborhoods. But if you have a situation, you have a question, you have a property, and you want to find out if you qualify for one of these, just give us a call, let us know. We'll talk through with you, see if we can find a program that works for you, whether it's in Healthy Neighborhoods funding or it is in our block grant funding.
Mark, I'm going to read one of the earlier questions, and it was from Melanie Hunt. Can a person be eligible for this loan if they already have a first and second mortgage? And she asked this early on, so I'm not sure which program it was regarding.
So we get that question a number of times, and it's kind of a situational thing. So in some cases, the answer would be yes, and some it would be no. I can think of a case where, for example, you'll have your primary mortgage. We've had someone, like, if they've had their mortgage on their property, they just bought the house, but they got a good deal on the house, and they also went through our city down payment assistance. They would have their mortgage and then our second mortgage because our sold on Oshkosh money is secured by a mortgage after the lender's mortgage is on the property. So we go on in second place. In that case, we have sometimes had people qualify, but we also look at loan to value of the property. So, you know, we certainly do not like to go above 125% for like our owner occupied or rental rehab or our curb appeal programs that Brandon and I talked about. So that's just something to keep in mind. You know, if you pay over the assessed value significantly, we've had people that applied right after that. And in cases like that, a lot of times they will not qualify. We may, you know, we'll look to see if there's judgments or liens, for example. In those cases, that might be an issue, depending on what those are. But if you had, say, your primary mortgage and then the city's sold on Oshkosh mortgage, you could, in theory, qualify potentially, depending on your situation.
Mark, I see another question in the chat, and this one's from Jess Phillips. Would the person who applies for this grant be required to live in the home once complete? So I'm not sure which grant he's speaking of.
It looks like it's to the new homes in your neighborhood grant. So it does need to be an owner occupied home. It couldn't be a rental property. But the person who applies for the loan doesn't have to be the end homeowner. A builder could get one of these lots from the city, apply for the loan, build a home, and then sell the home to an owner occupied. But it does need to be owner occupied. It cannot be a rental property. Hopefully that helps give a little bit of clarification to that.
Mark, this is Darlene. Also, with regard to that new homes in our neighborhood, if it is a developer building the home does have to be sold to a low to moderate income home buyer.
Correct. Most of the lots the city has acquired that are available have been purchased with block grant funding. It does require that end occupant to be a income qualified individual.
Yes. Here's another question. What programs get utilized the most often? And why do you think that is? And
So
that's from Kathy Bobber.
Yep, I'll answer for the Healthy Neighborhood Initiatives, and then I'll let Darlene answer for the block grant. For the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiatives, it is our down payment assistance. It has become our most popular program in the city, and every year continues to gain more and more support, and we're continuing to give out more and more of those $5,000 grants for homeownership.
All right, now we have Paul Van Auken. He's got 3 questions. So are there any limitations to using multiple programs, say a grant plus a loan at the same time? Do you guys want to address that first, and then I'll go on to the second and third question?
Yeah, so I can answer.
Yeah.
We've had people, for example, apply for the curb appeal micro grant. You know, say they're like, we had someone in Congressfield, for example, in that neighborhood where Rock the Block occurred last year. So hence that neighborhood was eligible. They applied for that, and then they also applied for like a curb appeal rehab loan. In that case, you could do that. As I mentioned, the example where like you buy a house, you go through the Sold on Oshkosh program, and if you have enough equity, enough room to play with, you could apply for a city loan also. But we typically don't like to have multiple city loans. So like if you have a block grant loan out there, we don't like to have another block grant loan on top of that usually. Darlene could probably expand on that. From a H&I standpoint, we don't like to have like an owner occupied and then a curb appeal after that. We want to see the person pay off the first loan before putting a second loan on the property.
City has, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Darlene.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The city has assisted new home buyers with down payment assistance and then rehab loans to make needed repairs to the home as well. So we have had that second and third mortgage sometimes on a property.
So another question is the income eligibility for the CDBG block grants. So Mark, maybe you can share where that's located on the webpage, and I'll make sure to send that info to the group.
I'm actually going to let Darlene go ahead and handle that one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to bring up my file here. 1 second. Okay, the 2021 federal income limits. Let's say for a family of 4 as a middle income family, I'm sorry, middle-sized family, the maximum income is 26,500. So, and it varies based on the size of the family. So, the federal government has established the median income for Oshkosh at 77,500. So then, we're taking a percentage of that. I don't think the income limits are out on the city's website, but I can get those to Mr. Lyons and he can attach them to the other information.
And every year they do change. With block grant programming, every year they put out what those income requirements are for that year's programming.
Ms. Brand, could you reiterate what, say, a 3-person family or a 4-person family income would be?
Sure. Okay, so I'll just do 1 through 4 just as average type families. So a one family person be 16,300 for maximum income. 2 people would be 18,600. 3 people, 21,960. And 4 people, 26,500. Now that's at the extreme low level. We have also looked at some income limits at the 80% level, which would be 43,400 for 1 person, 49,600 for 2 people, $55,800 for 3 people, and $62,000 for 4 people. So again, you can see the income limits will all vary based on the income guidelines established by the federal government. So that's why it's very important, if you have questions on your income limitation, that you should contact staff so we can help you determine which programs you would be eligible for.
I do see a third question from Paul, and that is, if the house is in a historic neighborhood, does it qualify for the historic program loan?
Generally, if it's a contributing structure in a historic district, or if it's individually listed or landmarked under our ordinance, then it should qualify. The property should anyway. We'd still look at the owner, their situation, but yes, most of them that are officially designated would qualify for that program. So if you think about some of the properties on Algoma or some of the ones on Washington Avenue, those would be good candidates.
Go ahead, Mark.
Just to reiterate what Stephen said, it does need not only be in the district, but it needs to be eligible from some historic criteria, whether it be a contributing structure or a historic structure.
So this question came in, is the webinar recorded? So we might post it on our website. So the answer is definitely yes. We're recording this seminar, and then we are also going to be running it on the Oshkosh Media's public TV programs, and I'll get those air times to people.
Yep. And then we have a couple more questions in chat, but I do want to get to the 2 people that have had their hand raised for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't we go with Melanie?
I wanted to know if you are approved for a loan or a grant. Does the work need to be done by contractors, by approved contractor? And what would that look like?
Yes, so the work they'd have to be licensed and insured, and the contractors really have to agree to the city terms. We tell property owners not to enter into agreements with contractors prior to approval, because we have city paperwork that our housing specialist will go through with the contractor and with the owner. And it's really there to protect the city, the owner, and the contractor, so we want to make sure we're paying contractors as they finish the work satisfactorily. But yes, they have to agree to work with us, and they have to be licensed and insured.
This is Darlene. That also is the same case with the Cdbg homeowner program as well.
And then it looks like we have Adam has his hand raised for some questions.
Sorry, I already had my question answered. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Going back to chat, it looks like we have, are these loan programs available each year? And the answer to that is yes. Both the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative loans, the H&I loans, and block grant funding at this point is available every year. And every year we continue to run these programs.
So we had another question about the recording, and we covered that. And then we have someone that's asking, I have a question regarding forming a healthy neighborhoods. And this is Mohammed. So maybe Mohammed, you could unmute, and then Pam Reuter can jump in, or if that's Alexa.
It looks like he did get his question answered.
Okay.
So he's gonna be getting in contact with Pam and their staff.
Absolutely. That might be another workshop worth. So we are happy to help you form neighborhood associations. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be a great idea for another workshop.
Okay. Next question I see is, how long does the approval process take? I think Stephen and Arlene, if you could handle that from your perspective sides.
So the approval, from my standpoint, for our down payment assistance program and our other city-funded programs, non-block grants, I'll let Darlene speak to that. We usually say allow up to 30 days between applying and, say like closing, for example, for the down payment assistance. That tends to be one thing that snags a lot of folks is, if you're looking to close like next week, Wednesday, and you apply now, it's very difficult for us to run through the entire approval process because we have to evaluate and make sure that the property owner or the buyer, in this case, would meet the 30% threshold. So we run initial numbers. If there's any information we're missing, we have to work with the owner and or the lender or other parties involved to get that information. On top of that, then we have to request, do the credit check, and or if it's a loan, we'd look at the title, I should say, of the property. So that takes time. But then, we have to work to get our check cut out. If you're buying a house and you're going through the Sold on Oshkosh down payment assistance. So then we work again with the credit and, or I should say the lender and the company, sorry. And so that all takes time. And so we say allow up to 30 days typically from my end.
From the CDBG standpoint, yes, it's about the same time frame. You have to get the application in, it has to be approved. There's circumstances we may need to take it to the loan committee. And then again, obtaining all the necessary income information and verification of that, either for the homeowner program and or down payment assistance. So yeah, it's usually 30, even 45 days, depending on circumstances.
Yeah, and then we do have another question from Paul in the chat. In the chart sent with the email, it shows the income limits as NA for the instance of owner-occupied loans. So Paul, the difference there is there are two owner-occupied loan type programs. One is community development block grant that has those income limits that Ms. Brandt was going over earlier. The other is our Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative H&I funding for owner-occupied. That does not have an income limit, but it does have the income qualification of no more than 30% of gross monthly income being spent towards your housing. So there is no maximum cap similar to the block grant programming. So that's why we have some kind of similar loans to help people in different situations. Then it looks like we have Sean who has some questions.
Morning. Hi. I guess my primary question would be, so I'm a new homeowner on the 4th Ward, and I guess I'd like a little more clarification between like the curb appeal program versus the owner occupied rehabilitation program. They both sound very similar to me, so just a little more clarification would be great.
Yeah, Sean. So some of the work is similar, some of the exterior work that would be eligible for both would be similar. I do believe for our curb appeal though, like landscaping might be eligible for that, but for owner occupied, it is not. On the other hand, the owner occupied program allows for interior work, remodeling, that type of thing. The curb appeal would not allow for interior work because it is really focused on what you can see from the street or from the neighboring properties. On top of it, the curb appeal is paid back over 10 years and goes up to no more than $10,000. The owner occupied goes up to $30,000 and is paid back quarterly over 15 years. So the owner occupied sometimes is better for people that are looking to do larger scale siding or roofing or window work. It may be that they need more money than the curb appeal would permit. So sometimes we'll say apply for the owner occupied instead. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's a great point. There is some overlap in some of the programs, and that's why we really encourage people that if you have a project in mind, give us a call. We can help you figure out which program may best suit your needs. I do not see any other chat and comments in either the chat or anyone with their hand raised. Does anyone else have questions? We're happy to answer anything and everything we can for you today as it relates to these programs. Melanie.
I did have a question about how these improvements might increase property taxes.
So depending upon the nature of the improvement, they could increase your property taxes. It really depends on what you'd be looking at doing. But there is that potential out there. If you have concerns with that and what you're looking at doing in our project, we can help get you in touch not only with the individuals that help with our loans, but our assessor's office to help understand what that impact may be.
Thank you.
Mark, looking at the chat, it looked like Melanie also had a question about they're paying off a second mortgage this year. Can we apply next year? For the CDBG program, if you have an existing first and second mortgage, there's not a problem with that. Again, you're looking at the full value of the existing loans to the value of the home, and then the value of the improvements that will be made, so it's not putting you too far under on the value of your home. Does that make sense?
And the same would apply for our healthy neighborhood initiatives. As Stephen had mentioned a little earlier too, there's that loan to value ratio that we're looking at. As long as we stay under that and we're comfortable with it, that's not a concern. And as Darlene said, we really want to make sure you don't over leverage and get yourself in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone have any other questions? Tracy, under the curb appeal loan, would insulating the home along the siding be covered? Stephen.
I would say if it's under the siding, if it's not something that's going to have an impact visually, I wouldn't think that would necessarily be covered. I think it might be better for the owner occupied loan. That'd be my take. I guess, if we were to look at it and see visually, but I think insulation is more improving the house, but not, obviously the primary goal of insulation is not curb appeal or not enhancing the appeal of it externally.
And I think this is Brandon here. Stephen, if someone was interested in paying back the loan early, if they didn't want to do it over 15 years, they could pay it back more quickly if they wanted to, correct?
They can. We have had someone, for example, that instead of making their quarterly payment quarterly, they do it monthly. They just wanted to get the loan gone, and so they pay. And so we have had that. So yes, we can talk. We'd like to talk to the property owner and make sure. Ideally, we don't like to have different amounts every month, just from an administrative standpoint. But I believe that we have room to work with the property owners on that.
And looks like we do have another question in chat. Would foundation repairs possibly be covered by these like community development block grants? So Darlene, have you done foundation repairs as part of block grant funding at all?
Yes, we have. But again, the city housing inspector will come out and look at the whole property, because we do put that mortgage on there. And we only want one mortgage. So we'll look at everything that you are possibly looking at that want repaired, like the foundation or new windows. But then we also look at the mechanics, your furnace and hot water heaters, and then your roof and everything else, so that hopefully everything can be done at one time, because we don't want you to have to come back in a year or two and say, oh, now I need a furnace, which is another mortgage we have to put on your property. So we don't like you to have that unnecessary constant mortgages out there. So we're trying to do everything at one time.
Next question. A brochure for curb appeal says up to 3 quotes must be obtained. Are we required to get more than one? Our goal for our healthy neighborhoods initiatives is to have 3 quotes per project to make sure we can find you a qualified individual at a reasonable price. We know there is instances where it can be challenging, especially in current times and some smaller projects where it can be difficult to get numerous quotes. And if you're running into an issue where maybe you're struggling to get quotes, this city can also help you obtain quotes. We have some contractors that have frequently done work with us that we can reach out to and see if they're able to help provide additional quote for you as well.
Yeah, as Mark said, the intent of the 3 quotes is just, it's really to be able to compare, if you get a quote for siding, is it completely unreasonable? You might be able to get a sense of that. If you have one that's like an outlier, that's like 15,000 more than the other 2 for the same work, so that's what we're trying to look at there.
Other questions? I'm gonna give a minute to see if anybody has any. In the meantime, I do want to kind of reference back to our presentation here. We did put kind of the contact information up there. If you have questions, you want to email them in, planning@ci.oshkosh.ws. Any question you have, feel free to send it to there. We'll get it to the appropriate staff member who can help you, and they'll get back to you as well. You can also call into planning services. Our direct number is 920-236-5059, and we'll get you in touch with whichever individual of our team here can help you with your questions or the project you're hoping to undertake at your home. Any other questions? I do want to once again thank everybody for taking the time to join us today. One of the city's goals is to really help get these programs out to the community and fund as many projects as we can. All right, I am not seeing any other questions. With that, I think we will then kind of wrap up today's presentation. Again, if you have questions, reach out to us. I can't say that enough.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.